Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Political Fixer Live. I'm Shauna Presley Vircher, the Political Fixer, and this evening we have a lot to talk about on Political Fixer Live. This is a pretty action packed show. We have a lot of news to go over, and it's not as awful as one might think. There's actually a lot of glimmers, some chaotic but fun news that we're going to go into, and then we are going to talk about some of the bigger topics that are in the headlines. Now, for those of you that are new to Political Fixer Live, then of course we're also going to get your comments, as many questions of yours that we can, and we want to make sure that you engage as well, because there's a lot happening, and part of the Political Fixer Live purpose is to make sure that we have a community here that can figure out what the heck is going on and what we can do about it. Now, right now, we have so many different things that we could have covered tonight, but I'm going to tell you what our top three stories are going to be, in addition to wherever the conversation takes us. Okay, first things first, the big story that we are going to cover at the bottom of the show, but is super important, is what is actually going on with the economy. What's real? What's not? How do you make sense of it? What can you expect and how it might impact you? If you are confused right now by what's going on, you're not alone, and there's a reason for that. So, we're going to walk through a couple of things at a high level, but then also, more importantly, talk about what you, your families, and your businesses might be experiencing in the next few weeks. So, we'll definitely be breaking that down. That's a pretty chunky story that we'll be doing as our third story. For lighter news, as far as things that I think are underreported, for those of you that have joined me on Political Fixer Live before, you know that I am Texan and I am a fan of football. But even I did not believe that in April, in this year of our Lord 2025, that we would have not one, not two, but three political stories having to do with the NFL. So, all of them weird, all of them different. So, we're going to cover those. And our top story is something that is our Political Fixer news headline of the week, a global story. We are going to cover the elections in Canada. I understand you might not have followed them. You might not understand why you should care, but I promise you that you will. And spoiler alert, this is actually more of a cheerful story. So we're going to lead off with that one and start out with a place of positivity and joy, because Lord knows we don't get a lot of that when we're watching the headline. Okay. Hello from North Carolina, Barantis. Good to see you. I have our Political Fixer team with us. We have Sarah, we have Jay Robot, and we have Eddie on here. You can watch us on TikTok. You can watch us on YouTube at our Political Fixer channel there. And if you miss anything or you want to go back and slice something up and use it for your own content, please do. That's why we're here, is to start good conversation, hopefully. So you can find all of these episodes on YouTube at Political Fixer, absolutely free at any point in time. I see Marlene is on. I see so many different of our Political Fixer family are hopping on. All right, let's make sure that we make this a great night for everybody. Okay, diving in here on the Canada elections. Oh, Canada, super fun. So, to me, politics at its core, when you strip out all of the policy, just like the gamesmanship of politics, it can feel somewhat like a sporting event, especially when you are watching all of the strategy and what sides are coordinating with each other. Well, this last winter, my family and I had the opportunity to travel to Canada. And in fact, we got a tour of their parliament. It was gorgeous. It was an amazing experience, and the docents there were very patient with all of my questions. And I was just very excited to learn everything there was, and extremely jealous in a way of what Canada was showing us as part of their government. They were so proud of the eclectic nature of their House of Commons. More than once, people there talked about how great it was that essentially their equivalent to our House of Representatives in Congress, they were so happy about the fact that it was diverse in ethnicity and background, that they had teachers and farmers and small business owners and nurses who served. There was just this pride of how it actually felt like it represented them. And I was very jealous of that, as someone who right now feels like maybe a large part of our own Congress is losing touch with everyday people in our lives. So, because of that connection to Canada, I was already kind of following this election for the new prime minister closer than I normally would have because I felt like that it meant something to me. Hey, Guava Girl, good to see you. And Natalie and Joyful in Minnesota. So many great people joining. Michael's just joined us. So many great people. All right. So let's get to the point of I told you why I started following it. But let's get to the heart of the matter. Why should you care about an election that happened in Canada for their prime minister? Well, here's the thing. When we were in Canada in winter, so right around Christmas time, then it was pretty much a sure thing that Justin Trudeau, their former prime minister, was not going to be staying there, that they wanted a change in Canada. They don't have the same structure that we do. They can call for elections at different times, people can serve for longer. It's a whole different system. But it looked like his party, the Liberal Party, kind of the equivalent of our Democrats, that people wanted a change. They were looking for new ideas and new leadership. So it was pretty much all but certain that the Conservative Party was going to win the next round of elections. And how that works is that they have several parties, every party has their own leader, and then all of the seats of the House of Commons, members of Parliament, are voted by the local areas, and the group that has the most seats or can build a coalition of the most seats, their person, their leader gets to be prime minister. So you don't go like into a voting booth and like vote for Justin Trudeau. You go and vote for your favorite representative and the party that they want, that you want in power. All right, cool. So again, why should we all care about what's happening here? Well, for months and months and months, it looked like the Conservatives were going to win by double digits, that they were going to completely flip the government of Canada. And those numbers stayed really solid until around January 20th. And the reason for that is a certain someone entered the Oval Office and started saying things like, Canada should be our 51st state. Okay. He said that he wanted to take over Canada, that we should have access to their resources, that it's time that they get forced to be a part of America, even using economic force if necessary. And Canada was like, whoa, 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 what is going on here? So now suddenly 47 is all in their politics as well, all over their television sets, all over their discussion. And Canadians were so angry. Do you know how bad things have to be to make a Canadian angry? I just want to ask that question because it's a lot. It's a lot that it takes. Good to see you, Sunshine. So, okay. So there were two leading candidates from the two primary parties right now, which are the Conservatives and the Liberals. On the Liberal side, you had Mark Carney, who was saying, in no way, no shape, in any form is America ever going to take over Canada. And then you had this guy named Pierre Poilievre. Now, he prided himself on being a mini Trump. He changed his slogan to be Make Canada Great Again. He was attacking the news media as being biased. He was using a lot of the like slurs and language that 47 uses. He really prided himself on being that kind of guy. And so Canadians worried that, hey, if you really like Trump, then maybe you would go along with this 51st state idea. Now, no matter what this guy said, at first he said, no, he's just joking. Then he said, of course, I wouldn't go along with it. But then you have 47 tweeting all the time. No, we're like best friends. Of course, he wants Canada to be our cherished 51st state. And the numbers started to completely flip flop. So everyone started watching Canada from around the world. It was the top story last night, not just on the Canadian political sites, on the American political sites, on the British political sites, on Al Jazeera. Everyone was watching to see, would Canadians go MAGA? Would the Liberals pull off a complete upset and completely change the entire thing, right? Um, Natalie is on from Canada, and she says, we changed how we shop and how we travel. We wouldn't let Maple MAGA take over. First of all, I love Maple MAGA. What a great say. And yes, Natalie, you bring up a really good point. So many Canadians not only were talking about changing how they voted, but they were changing how they shop as well, especially once he started saying things like, slapping on these tariffs, starting a trade war, you would see Canadians priding themselves. You saw footage of bars emptying out their American based liquors. I mean, the entire nation was paying attention to this. Okay, so what ended up happening? Well, I was up way too late to be healthy, but it was such a good thing to watch. First of all, I love CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Channel. I love watching it. It is so much more friendly and calmer, even in tense moments like an election, than our news media. So the Liberal Party defied all odds and they won the most seats. And not only that, they have the largest minority of seats, meaning they didn't crack 50%. They got 169 seats. You need 172 to be a true majority. So that means they can work with anybody. They can work with any other party essentially, and they've got a majority coalition bloc. So Mark Carney is going to be or currently is now the new prime minister, a full term in Canada. The Liberals are going to control government. And I want to just stop for a second before I get into some more of the fun events that unfolded. Hello, Twitchy. I want to stop for a second and particularly congratulate the Bloc candidate. This is a different party. They're called the Bloc Party, BLOQ. The Bloc Party candidate Xavier Barcelou Duval, who was reelected as the member of parliament in the what they call the riding that included the little town of Verchères, which is named after a young woman in history, in Canadians history, Madeleine Verchères, spelled exactly like my daughter's name. We got a chance to go to the little town of Verchères and talk to a lot of people, so I consider that my town. So congratulations to the MP winning person of Verchères in Canada, among other things. So, okay, so the Liberal Party completely shocks the world and changes everything. And it becomes this moment where Canadians say, listen, we don't want to be like America and not have healthcare and have our children gunned down in schools and have, and be horrible to immigrants and all these other things, right? We actually like things here. It's flawed. It's not perfect. We could be doing better, of course, but we like how things are. And they were wearing shirts and posters and everything saying, like, no 51st, not the 51st state kind of thing. And as Lissa is saying, she says, definitely the first time I ever watched the Canadian elections. Yes, absolutely. But you know what? Won't be the last. I'm actually now a little bit addicted to it. So what ends up happening is the Liberals shock the world, but it gets even juicier. Okay, so the guy who was the Canadian Maple MAGA, as I'm now going to start saying, Pierre Poilievre. Now, remember when I told you that in order to win the prime minister seat, you have to be a member of parliament and then be the leader of your party in parliament. So kind of think of it a little bit like we do Speaker of the House. You have to be a member of Congress, and I'm oversimplifying it, but then someone gets to be the Speaker of the House out of the ruling party. So kind of think of it like that. And so what happened to Pierre Poilievre? Well, not only did his party not win, he lost his seat. Oh, so not only did his party go down in flames when it looked like a sure thing, but he didn't even win his MP seat back. Now there's all kinds of drama surrounding this because some people are like, well, wait, we still made some gains. There was still some progress. It's not his fault that Trump kept interfering in our elections. Maybe we should keep him as leader. Not everyone agrees with that. Some people say he could have handled it better, that he could have pushed back stronger. And my favorite article that I saw on this, and I'm not just saying this as someone who currently lives in Florida, they called him the Ron DeSantis of Canada, saying that DeSantis appeared to be poised to win the presidential primary, but he couldn't make it on the national stage. It is a scathing article in Time Magazine. I highly recommend that you read it. I don't pretend to know this gentleman well, and I'm definitely not an expert on Canadian politics, but it's very interesting to me that they compared him that way because they said he found himself in the same predicament that DeSantis just once did. This is an object lesson in the pitfalls of trying to do Trumpism without Trump, right? So think about that. 47 is a nightmare beast. We know this, right? Um, but he's very temporary. No matter what, he's very temporary. And we keep seeing case after case after case of the fact that no matter how obnoxious someone tries to be, even when they try to be a MAGA jerk, no matter what country it's in, it doesn't work. Which means are we facing a limited number of days of MAGA overall? Will MAGA quickly evaporate the second that 47 does? Or is it something where the meanness and all of that will live on? What do you guys think? How stuck are we with MAGA, right? Is this something that without him, it starts to dissipate and just like the light coming on in a bunch of cockroaches, it starts to scatter? Or is it something that they will find their next 47, their next clown leader of the circus, right? Uh, the Twitchy Eye has a great comment. Our beaver is not up for grabs. I also want to thank Vivian and Susan Reyes and Angela, Marlene, Guava Girl, so many other people for sharing likes and gifts as well, right? I think it's Matera. Hold on, I just want to make Materas 696 says, I think the hatred is going to continue. Jante says, hopefully it disappears like the Tea Party. Sarah says she thinks MAGA is dwindling. You know, the sentiment, you're right, of hatred has existed since the dawn of time, definitely has increased in visibility and how it shows its ugly face a lot since, say, the civil rights era. However, the power has been very intermittent, right? The willingness to show that you're a jerk in public is a fairly new thing, right? Gen X 66 says, I think we're stuck. The hate will always be there. Maybe, but maybe we could at least shame it back into wearing hoods next time. I don't know. Oh, JoJo says she likes the blouse. Thank you so much, JoJo. I appreciate it. Also says that MAGA is losing grip on the party. Possibly. Now we're going to talk some more about approval ratings and things as well. All right, really quickly to tie up this Canadian story, though, again, I highly recommend that you guys keep kind of an eye on what's going on. First of all, I love how their parliament openly discusses issues, how they have to build a coalition to work together to get things through. If there's one negative that me as a complete outsider would observe, is that one thing I envy about Canada and so many other countries is that you have a strong multi-party system. So while of course I love seeing the Liberals do well, I am hoping that the next time other parties also gain more seats, right? Because that's what keeps you guys healthy, and we definitely don't want you going down the road of America where you just have two locked in nemesis that never get anything done. That was the only I hope that strengthens up over time, because the other parties didn't get as many seats as some people thought they would. Now, we've talked about the guy that lost, Pierre Poilievre. Let's talk a little bit about the guy that is the prime minister now, Mark Carney. This gentleman is a business leader. I do not know too much about him as a person, but I have seen a lot of respected commentators and political strategists saying that behind the scenes, he is a genuinely intelligent and good man. So I hope that is true for the sake of all of you Canadians there. I want to read you just a little bit of what he said today after the victory. He says, as I've been warned, America wants our land, our resources, our water, our country. These are not idle threats. President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us. That will never, ever happen. So it remains to be seen how that relationship evolves over time, because I know the two gentlemen were speaking today, but I also know that 47 just tweeted nonsense about the 51st state as recently as yesterday. And you got to think, just from a personal perspective, you got to think that Pierre Poilievre guy is like, shut up, shut up, shut up, stop doing this, right? He completely tanked this guy's career and does not care, right? So, we'll have to see what happens. I want to say hi to all of our political fixer family. Big congratulations to Canada. Definitely kept your elbows up in this election. fantastic turnout. Had it was amazing. Had, I believe, over 20 million people participate in the election, and so many of the writings came down to just a handful of the votes, meaning that there was such a reinforcement that every vote really does matter. And from a broader perspective, as my husband pointed out to me after the elections became finalized, America is now officially the world's cautionary tale. Everyone is looking at us and saying, "Nuh-uh." So maybe Americans will eventually find a very strong mirror and be able to do the same and wrestle our own grip away from the circus that is this current administration. Angela points out they got to learn from our mistake. Yes, I wish that we would learn from our mistakes, Angela. That is my sincere wish, right? Divine AF, want to say hi if I haven't already. I saw that you were on. Okay, let's go to our next story. I'm so excited because we got so many fun things to talk about. Now, even if you're not a sports fan, it's totally fine. Hello, Genfinity. It's okay to not love sports. It's okay to not love football. I promise you don't need to know anything about either in order to appreciate the soap opera that has unfolded between NFL teams and the current administration. And again, I'm extremely shocked that there were multiple stories, enough to warrant a segment here. Now, these stories matter, but also, there's 1,000 stories we could talk about, but I thought that this was just emblematic of where we are. So let's start with an easy one. We're going to talk about the visit that the Eagles paid to the White House. All right. So the Eagles won the Super Bowl. And as is customary, the winning team of the Super Bowl gets invited to go to the White House. Now, in years past, that wasn't highly political. Very rarely did people refuse. Notably, Tom Brady refused to go meet with President Obama for at least one time that I'm aware of, right? So it has been politicized in the past, but now people were really watching to see what would happen, especially now in light of really knowing more about who the character of 47 is, who would go and who would stay home. It looked like everyone was going pretty quiet on the Philadelphia front, but if you were in the market for a new football jersey that is bright green, then I've got some players that I could suggest for you. I would begin by suggesting that you check out their quarterback, Jalen Hurts, because he's the one that got things rolling by saying that he had scheduling conflicts and, alas, would no longer be able to attend the White House ceremony. I believe he was the first player. I'm going to read you the list of the other Eagles who did not attend the White House ceremony. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Brandon Graham, Nolan Smith, Zach Braun, Nakobe Dean, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Darius Slay, and Kenyon Mitchell. Okay, why do I take the time to read their names? First of all, I'm constantly complaining when people do the wrong thing. Tempted to go off on an entire rant on Michigan's Governor Whitmer today, but we're not going to do that. We're going to stay on the positive. Let's reward people when they do things like standing up to authoritarianism. And so those are the Eagles that decided to stay home and not kind of give their character, reputation, and a photo op to this particular administration. I don't take that lightly because not everyone can just go to the White House and meet a sitting president. In years past, it would be considered a tremendous honor. And so for some people, they don't want to pass up that moment for themselves. I get that. But these gentlemen took a different approach and they said, you know what? We're not participating in this, right? And I see Jojo asking about Thursday, May 1st. So yes, I will ping that Jojo and come back to it for sure. Okay, so let me give you an example of someone who did the opposite of what these young men did. Not only did Saquon Barkley, one of the Philadelphia Eagles, attend the White House celebration for the Super Bowl winners, but he went and met with 47 to golf at his Bedminster golf course ahead of time, just hung out with him, right? Now, how the fans, some of them not kind about that. There was a lot of social media discussion about whether or not he should have done that. His response was he has respect for the office, that he also played a round of golf with former President Obama. Do with that how you will. But here's how he was rewarded for it. He's standing on the podium and he instantly becomes a prop. 47 said, now something you should know, Saquon Barkley plays for the Eagles now. He used to play for the New York Giants. 47 says that he told the New York Giants not to let him walk away during free agency. He said, they lost Saquon. That was not good. I called it. It was an easy one to call. I told you. I was sitting, let's see. He said, I was sitting with the head coach and some other people, and I told them, do not let Saquon go. He's a very handsome guy. I told them not to let him go, right? So he's talking about all these conversations that he had with the Giants team, not to let this player go, and how much, he's been involved in this. Never happened. None of these conversations ever happened. People checked with the Giants administration. Of course, it was all a lie. Why do I bring this up? Kind of small in the scheme of things. But I want to point out, because we should continue to point out, even in the stupidest, most minuscule, most inconsequential moments, all he does is lie. You cannot trust him to tell the truth about whether or not it's raining outside. Okay? You just can't. And someone like that who has absolutely no connection to fact, right? Then why are we just trusting his administration collectively when they say things like, oh no, Social Security will be safe. Oh no, Doge doesn't have access to your most sensitive data, just the other data. Oh no, all those immigrants that we took, yeah, they had all committed crimes. Trust us. We're not going to tell you what they were. There was no hearings, but trust us, they committed crime. You can't tell the truth about the most nonsensical stuff, and yet you expect us to believe you. And possibly more infuriating, it's like Lucy in the football. The press falls for it every time, every time, every time, every time. Okay, so that was the first NFL political story. The dude continues to meddle. Deion Sanders' son, Shedeur Sanders, went into the draft. The NFL draft was this last week for people that don't follow football, where different teams get to pick the college players that they want for their teams. And it was expected that Shedeur Sanders, who is an extremely gifted quarterback, not just because he's Deion Sanders' son, but the guy broke all kinds of records. His one of his receivers, who also played defense, Travis Hunter, was the Heisman Trophy winner. Just phenomenal athletes. They were human highlight reels all season long. So it was expected that he would go in the first, maybe the second round of the draft. Didn't happen. And on the first day after the first round, most of football was a little bit shocked that Shedeur Sanders had not been drafted at all. A lot of people thought he would be the second name called, that Travis Hunter, his former teammate, would be number one and he would be number two. And names kept getting called and kept getting called, and the night ended and his name was still not called. Well, 47 needed to insert him into this conversation, and he said, what is wrong with NFL owners? Are they stupid? He should be picked immediately by a team that wants to win, and went on to compliment his, quote, phenomenal genes. I will say this about him. He manages to put in a slur, waited to, first of all, you know nothing about what you're talking about, but also when you're inserting yourself and making this young man's life much, much harder, you manage to insert junk science and eugenics into the conversation, just honestly. So days continue. He does not get picked. He did not get picked until the fifth round, which is extremely low. Nothing against all of the young men who were picked in later rounds, but if you are considered to be a star, that is not where you're expecting to be. Okay. So the White House press secretary was actually asked about this. Again, what timeline are we living in? She was asked, like, hey, he said they should pick him. NFL didn't listen. And what do you think about that? And she said that I will say the president put out a statement, and a few rounds later, he was drafted. So I think the facts speak for themselves, leading the entire press corps to laugh in her face. I should mention that we don't believe that we don't know what's in the minds of all of the draft rooms in the NFL, but we don't think that the tweet had anything to do one way or another with Shedeur Sanders getting picked or not getting picked. From everything that I've read, He came in a little bit arrogant. He missed some workouts. He kind of underperformed in the scouting places, the combines where they look to see. He was a little bit arrogant in some of his interviews. So a lot of people think that's what happened, and that maybe coming in the fifth round might humble him a little bit. I don't actually think it had anything to do with 47 tweeting about him. I guess the point is that, again, just inserting yourself into every conversation where it's not needed and somehow managing to be like really insulting and gross in the process. So he's lost Canada for the Canadians, and he lost, possibly the career of a young, promising football player. But, other than that, doing great. Final one. Now, this one, not very widely reported, just broke yesterday. Final football story, and you're going to want to pay attention to this one because nothing to do with players, everything to do with is one of America's favorite sports teams embracing evil. Let's find out. Would you like another reason to hate the Patriots? Because I would. Can't stand the Patriots. Sorry to all of my Boston political fixer family. Cannot stand them. Never could. Really don't like America's team. Here are my three main things that I just don't love about the Patriots and their ownership recently. There was what we call Deflategate, where they got caught cheating and lowering the air pressure in certain footballs during playoffs so that they would have a better chance of winning. There's the fact that Robert Kraft, their owner, got caught up in a sting operation in a massage parlor and is really gross and apparently abuses young women all the time, allegedly, right? So really sketch. Not really loving the fact that his new wife is 34 years younger than him. Gross, just so many things, right? But don't worry, everything is new. They've turned a new leaf and they are going to be more philanthropically minded. At least that was the plan. And in fact, their owner of the team, Kraft, was really excited to kick things off with a fresh start at the beginning of last season in August of 2024 and talk about how the Patriots were going to be focused more on humanitarian efforts. And one of those things that he held a press conference and talked about was his partnership with Omni Air International. Now, Omni Air International was selected to operate the two new jets that would be flying the players back and forth to all of their games. And when it's not football season, then he was excited to share with all of us that those jets would be used for humanitarian and goodwill flights. For example, the president of Omni said that the agreement would bring together industry-leading organizations that value people, patriotism, professionalism, and a culture of success, that they would support film crews, music tours, corporate and leisure travel, emergency evacuations, and government and military transfers to show their goodwill across the nation. They also painted these jets very boldly with the team colors, red, white, and blue, of course. And on the tail of the jets, they have 6 Super Bowl championship Lombardi trophies to symbolize the 6 Super Bowl wins of the Patriots. That seems good, right? We're going to do some humanitarian efforts during the off season. New jets, red, white, and blue. Go America. What could go wrong? Well, we found out last night when the Blue Sky user, JJ in DC, was watching the FlightAware. FlightAware is a free tool that any of us can use to follow what jets are where and what flights are happening. I use it sometimes to check the status of like one of my daughter's flights when she's coming home, that kind of thing. FlightAware, free. And he posted in Blue Sky, did I just see the New England Patriots team plane fly to Guantanamo? What? Apparently, their Boeing 767-300, or a Boeing 767-300, with the same registration numbers and call signs, showed up in FlightAware, flying to Guantanamo Bay. There were photos of the flight landing. Hope you can see that. Pretty hard to miss. That would be a photo of the Patriots jet landing in Guantanamo. Guys. So on Sunday, Patriots jet apparently lands in Guantanamo Bay. It landed at around 10:50 a.m. Central Time, and then a few hours later took off again at around 2:20 Central Time in the afternoon. Not a long trip. Wondering what happened with that? The Patriots were asked to comment. What they said was that there were no detainees that were deported on the plane. Now I'm going to read you this statement. Goodness, you cannot make this stuff up. Okay. There were no detainees on the plane, the statement said. Under our current charter manager, neither the Patriots planes have ever been used for that purpose. The planes are operated by a professional charter company when they are not by use of the team, and that company handles all the logistics, bookings, and operations independently. The New England Patriots organization is not involved in, nor does it approve, sanction, or coordinate the use of the aircraft when they're used for non-team purposes. Okay, couple of things with this. Okay, couple of things. If you have a jet that is painted with your colors and your team and your 6 Super Bowl trophies, maybe you should have a contract that limits what they can do when you're not on them. That might be good PR. I'm not an NFL marketing expert, but if I wanted to protect a multi-billion-dollar brand, the Patriots are one of the most lucrative brands in the NFL. They are worth $7.2 billion. And you want to risk damaging it by not putting a clause in the contract that says that your office has to approve what is being done with your team logo slapped on it? Oh, okay. Now let me tell you something. Whoever negotiated this contract needs to lose their job, because you could say, you know what? We get it now. Shame on us. Good point. Good point. We will take care of it in the future. But when I was reading this PR statement, let me go back to it. Something struck me. Did a little digging. Said, under our current charter manager, neither of the Patriots planes have ever been used for that purpose. That's a weird way to say that's never happened. Sure enough, it has. The reason they changed charter companies to begin with, the reason they have the new planes is because the last company, whoops, got caught chartering deportations 3 times. 3 times. And my apologies, they're worth 7.4 billion, not worth 7.2. How does this person that negotiated this contract still have a job? How does it happen to you twice? Okay. So crazy stuff. Yeah, Marlene is right. You know, like Susan. Yeah, I read this, I looked in, I questioned it. Yeah, I could not believe that these things were true. Man, it happened to us again. What are the odds? You just got caught shipping people to Guantanamo again. All right, gotta love the Patriots. They just continue to amaze me with how goofy they are. America's team. I will say though, just to close this all up, if you are looking at being America's team, having a team that cheats, that lusts after young women, and who also gets caught up in sex scandals, honestly, fair play. Fair play. You win. Right now, you are America's team. How sad is that? Right. Okay. We're going to keep going with talking about, okay, first of all, with JoJo. Mentioned on Thursday, May 1st, there is a march to Capitol Square. These marches are continuing throughout, probably indefinitely. So while they might not be covered as much in the news media, I can tell you that over 5 million people were estimated to show up in the first march that happened I believe, at the beginning of April. The second one's still estimated to have several million people attending. And while we don't talk about them much in the news anymore, the Tesla takedown protests are continuing. So JoJo wanted to make sure that everyone knows that on Thursday, May 1st, there is a march to Capitol Square. And also, the Visionary Girl said it would be cool if we created a community on the Geneva app. Would love to look into that. So great suggestion, Visionary Girl. I will add that to our list of things to do. Sarah, our chief of staff, for the Political Fixer team is here. So Sarah, if you could make a note of that, I would truly appreciate it. Jojo wants us to know that on May 1st, it's at 5 p.m. and that the previous marches were on April 5th and April 19th. Jojo, you're hired. Always keeping me straight with all of the facts, which I sincerely appreciate. CJ Murphy is saying that it's ridiculous to talk about destroying a brand. I'm not a Patriot fan either way. And Kraft is a big Trump fan. Yes, of course he is. I mean, I mean, I get that. I get that they're, these dudes stick together, and I guess I get it, but these are just easy layups that you're missing here. Not to mix our sports, but come on. Okay, let's get a little bit into what is actually going on with the economy. All right. So I have a dude that's really named Dude that says, go home and bake some cookies, do something useful. I'm assuming that's an offer of what you're going to be doing for us. Everyone, Dude has offered us free cookies. Yay! Everybody celebrate the free cookies that Dude is offering us. He's going to do something useful and make free cookies. Dude, thank you so much. I'm assuming that churros might be next. So welcome, Dude, to the Political Fixer family. We accept your offer of cookies. My favorite is chocolate chip. If everyone would like to let Dude know what your favorite kind of cookies are, I'm sure he'll get right on it. All right. So what's actually going on with the economy? Now, listen, I get this stuff is confusing. It can give you a migraine. We're not going to get in deep with a lot of the numbers here, but I do want you to understand what's truth and what's fiction, what's real and what's scare tactics. It's Karma Baby wants you to know it's oatmeal raisin. Love you guys. I really do. Sincerely love you guys. Okay. So if you're confused about these tariffs, you're not alone. It's so bad that like the Wall Street Journal and Yahoo Finance and they have daily updates on what the status is of the tariffs. Now, I'm not going to go through all of them, but just as like some sort of baseline understanding of how crazy this is, if you haven't been following it, he slapped a bunch of tariffs on a lot of different places, including, and I'm not making this up, the Heard Islands and the McDonald's Islands. These are external territories of Australia. They are the most remote places on Earth. The last time a human was believed to have visited these locations is 10 years ago. 10 years ago. They are filled with penguins. No joke. And he taxed them. He taxed them a 10% tariff. Those islands specifically, okay? Just chaos, 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 right? Just a quick read down that's intentionally, I guess, insane, but just so you see how crazy this is. There's a universal tariff of 10%, unless you're in Canada or Mexico, in which case most stuff is 25%, except for some things. And then China, he's mad at, so it's at 145%, except there's also 25% in some areas for Venezuelan oil and auto parts. If you don't understand this, it's because it doesn't make sense. It changes all the time. It has no rhyme or reason. And there's these exceptions that change by moment sometimes, and sometimes they don't. And the other funny thing is, for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, he was talking about all this money that was going to come in from the tariffs and what have you. Their tariff software was broken. They weren't collecting anything. So there's that. I don't even know if they got that fixed yet. Okay. But the problem with this is, as ludicrous as it all is, as crazy as it all seems, it's having real life implications. Right now, our consumer confidence in the US, which they measure with this kind of stuff, our consumer confidence fell to, let's see, short-term expectations of the job market plunged 12.5 points to 54.4. And if you're asking yourself, is that bad? 54.4. Apparently, you are worried about recessions anytime the number falls below 80. Oh, so 54.4, that would be bad. This confidence that we have, or lack thereof, in the economy is the worst that it's been since May of 2020, which is the COVID era. So what happens is that uncertainty causes people to make different business decisions. They don't know what they can invest in. They don't know if they can expand. They don't know if they can order. So Veronica asked, did he ever charge tariffs on Russia? And the answer is no, I don't believe so, Veronica. The last time I checked, the answer was 0% on Russia. It was one of the few countries that had zero. Hey, Rachel, I want to say hi if I didn't say hi earlier. All right. And Cookiemon. Oh, how great. Cookiemon. So great that you're here and on a day that dude is buying us cookies. Okay. So, for perspective, Trump's first 100 days in office have been the worst economically for any president since Nixon. Just going to read you some quick numbers for perspective. The Dow Jones average dropped 6.8%, which is the worst start for a presidency since Nixon. S&P 500 is down 7.3%. The NASDAQ composite down 11%, which is the worst since 2001 with George W. Bush. And the Russell 2000, which I'll be honest, I did not know was a thing, it went down 13%, 13.2%, and it was the worst 100-day period of any presidency in history on record. All right. Not good. Not good. Okay. Don't worry. He's got it figured out. No one panic. He says he's making deals with them. This is just temporary. And it is both good for the economy that we have them and won't be around long. Again, just drop an anvil right on my head. But he says that he has already struck trade deals with 200 countries. Now, we just said the man lies about everything. We just said that. But for fun, just for fun, because you guys are super smart and you always get my trivia questions, does anyone want to guess how many actual countries there are that are recognized governments on the planet? Would anyone like to guess? Because it's not 200. Okay. So not only that, all of this is nonsense. They said they're going to have 90 deals in 90 days. So you don't have 200 or you're going back on 90 of them. They said they were talking to China. Then they said they weren't talking to China. And then they said, if China wants to talk to us, they can call us. I wish I was making that up. That is almost a direct quote, right? The answer is some people say 195. It depends on whether or not you count Vatican City and one other. So it's between one, like in the 195 range. Good call, everybody. And no, not 200. So no, he didn't make deals with 200 people. Okay. So all of this is happening. You can't control it. It is a chaos tornado. What can you expect? That's what the point of this story is. What can you realistically expect? What can you expect to see? Now, on another episode, when we were explaining the tariffs, I was telling you that you should look for what we call everyday indicators to see how the economy is really doing. The stock market, in my opinion, again, I'm not an expert, but it's kind of glorified economic voodoo. It's based on vibes. I feel like the economy is good, so therefore I'm going to buy a bunch of stuff. I feel like it's bad, so I'm going to take it all back. It's not really the best economic indicator. There are three things that we said you could start looking for to see if the economy was actually headed towards a recession. The three steps were this, and this came to me from the president of Bank of America. So I didn't come up with this. I had an opportunity to sit down with them and the Florida president of Wells Fargo and have a conversation about the economy. And I asked that question, how do we really know? And this was the answer they gave to me. The first thing you're looking at is not just our credit cards and debt going up, but what are they being used on? Because if they're being used on luxury purchases like vacations, you're still pretty good. But if they're used on essential goods, that's when you start to worry. The second phase of getting into an everyday recession that we can look for is looking at the index of how many people are making their car payments late. And then the third phase we're looking for is, do people start defaulting on rent and their mortgages? Well, we just crossed into the first phase. It's official that now 25% of consumers in the United States are now financing their groceries. Really depressing. They are financing their groceries 25%, one out of every five, and one out of every four, forgive me. And out of those, 41% of them are already starting to pay those bills late. All right. So, not good. I would expect that we're going to see a lot more of that. I hate that we live in a time period where we think it's okay that people have to go into debt to eat. I hate it. Anyway, so that's our first indicator. We're going to keep an eye on that. But Chase Bank was even their president was even, or their CEO rather, was more direct. He said there is a 90% chance that we are going to hit a recession. Yay. Okay, so what does that mean and what will we see? Because recessions are not the same all across the board. There's a lot of different factors, but here's where we think we're going to start to see some discomfort sooner rather than later. Let's talk about top level, which is what's happening with our retailers. Because as one of you pointed out, it looks like it's Gina. Shelves, we might start to see supply shortages. Now, let me tell you specifically how we know that. Particularly with China, which again, their tariff rate right now is 145%. Okay. So I'm going to break down a little bit more of what the reality of that is in just a second. But what it essentially means is when something comes from China, before you can get it off the dock, it has to go through their system and someone has to pay that 145% tariff, that tax. It's the person who bought it. That would be us. Okay. So retailers are buying stuff. Sometimes these orders go in months and months ahead of time. And now, when this first started happening, we started to see shipments and crates and huge containers that were left sitting on the docks because now they were thinking their bill was going to be $100 and now it's almost $250, right? Times everything that they bought. Honestly, it's kind of worse now. Now, um, 60%, an estimated 60% of the containers that are hitting us, our ports from China, are empty. They're just empty because people have stopped ordering the stuff. Or China said in some cases, they're not going to give us the stuff because it's a trade war. And so now here's what happens you have empty containers that are on landing at our docks, right? Because there's not orders or they're not sending stuff. We're going to talk about that from two perspectives. What normally happens is trucks go load those containers there. That's why you see all those 18 wheelers. They go to the warehouses divvy up the stuff, send it to their stores or distributors, and then we see it on the shelves. Problem: less stuff, less truckers. Did you know that over 20 of our states, the number one occupation for small business people is trucker? Millions of families impacted if the trucking business gets destabilized. And on top of that, that means we are looking at having empty shelves with certain supplies. There was a really great article, if you get a chance to check it out, on the impact of the tariffs and what we're about to see in the Chicago Tribune. The Chicago Tribune. They interviewed a guy who's a toy maker who says, we are paralyzed. It's only been a couple of weeks. Normally, they generate around $200 million in sales, with 90% of their products coming from China. Right now, they're looking at going out of business. They're saying that if this does not change in the next month or so, then Christmas shipments are not going to be ordered in time. Christmas shipments, because you got to order it, they got to make it, they got to ship it here. It's got to get through the whole process, trucks, warehouses, divvied up, back onto trucks, into the locations, et cetera, et cetera. We're looking at disruptions to Christmas supplies within the next month. When will we expect to see this hurting us? When will we see things really on the shelves if this continues? We expect by Memorial Day. By Memorial Day is when you're starting to see things not be in stock. So my recommendation is that for you at home, think about what you use. Now, this is different than COVID, right? We're not talking necessarily about hand sanitizer and toilet paper and things like that. But if there's a purchase that you're looking to make, especially electronic, I would do it soon. If there's something that you use that comes from another country and it's something you really need or something that you really love, I would get two of them if you can afford to do so. Make sure that you try to stock up on those types of things if you can. I've started reading jars, right? Like of things in the pantry or different supplies of things that we use to see where is it coming from, because it's all about to get more expensive, right? If it's available at all. M says, I think this is going to be worse than the Great Recession of 2008. Sarah brought up a good point about disrupting the trucking industry. It is looking like it's going to get even worse. Sarah brings up the fact that he just signed an executive order saying he wants all truck drivers to have to pass an English literacy test before they can drive. I got to tell you, just so you know, 54% of all US adults cannot read over the age of a level of an 11-year-old. Not being funny. 54%. This is why I say that we need to change our media and our messaging, and why things like TikTok and YouTube are so effective, because we can reach people that do not read often or do not have a high level of comprehension when they do. 54% read at the level of an 11-year-old, not an 11th grader, an 11-year-old, and over 20% are estimated to be illiterate, completely functionally illiterate. Now, this is going to disrupt things. It's going to disrupt things. All right, let's talk about it from we talked about it from the retailer side. Let's talk about it from the individual purchase side. For those of you that might purchase things on sites like Temu and other places, what can you expect? And there's some news here, and this is going to lead to a call to action. We said that, listen, this is a chaos tornado. The economy, it looks like we're headed towards a recession. It looks like we're going to experience some hardship, even if things change course. The dominoes have started to fall, but there is something you can do about it besides just protect your families and order more for your businesses and family and households if you can't. Something you can do about it politically. We're going to get to that in just a second. Vivian suggested that we stock up on extra chargers, updated electronics, and batteries. Great suggestions. J Robot, coffee, beef, fruits, veggies, he noticed were all up last time he went to the store. Gina says Amazon is laying off 20,000 delivery workers. Gina, that's a great point. And I also saw that as a result, then UPS, who delivers a lot of Amazon things, UPS is also laying off a bunch of drivers. So Sunshine says he was president in May 2020, so he's just picking up where he left off, I guess. And you're right, Sunshine, just a giant wrecking ball. It's Karma Baby wants to remind everyone, any medical supplies and prescription medications, if you're able to do so, if you can ask your doctor to write you a prescription and let you get a few months ahead of time, prescription medications may also be impacted. I'm not trying to scare you. We don't know what to expect with supply shortages. No one does. Again, highest uncertainty since COVID. It's just trying to be precautionary. I would rather that you stretch the dollars a little and pay a couple more copays to have medicines on the shelf that maybe you don't use for a couple of months than need something and not be able to get it, right? Okay. So this is what we call a crisis opportunity in this business of political strategy and political media. It is a bad situation. There's an opportunity to educate people here. I want to read you something that was on Reddit, and there's so many of these stories that are happening right now. There are a lot of people that are not paying close attention to this story. And what's happening is that the prices are starting to go up, and certain retailers like Temu are adding a line item. So where it says like shipping and then taxes, in Temu's cases, they labeled it import charges. So this woman, just named Karen by coincidence, says, mind blown. My granddaughter found the perfect dress for her uncle's wedding on Temu. It was marked down to $19. I ordered it, and after I hit the purchase now button, I got a receipt for $54. So the item was $19 and some change. That it rounded up with, I guess, taxes and stuff to $22.18. And the import charges, because again, it's 145% tariff. The charges from the tariffs were over $31. She ordered something that was $22, and then the tariffs were $31. Okay, that is not sustainable. So we're going to come back to Karen in just a bit. Amazon, just really quickly, there's a lot of retailers that are starting to say that they're going to put a tariff item or an import fee or something on their receipt so that hey, listen, we jacked up these prices, but it's not our fault. It's because of the tariffs. Amazon was going to do exactly that. They were going to show a tariff cost on any items, particularly in what they call their Amazon Haul store, HAUL, which is supposed to be kind of their competitor with Temu. They were going to show what the tariff fee was. And then Bezos got a call this morning, a call from the Oval Office saying, don't do that. And a sitting press secretary saying that it was a hostile act against the country to tell us what we're paying for on our receipts. And so he backtracked. With the exception of someone who apparently has billions of dollars and zero spine, most retailers and direct shippers, you're going to expect to see a listing that says a tariff charge. Now, let me tell you where we are as a nation with understanding this. As one of you pointed out earlier, if he was CJ Murphy, if his lips are moving and words are blubbering out, it's a lie. Yes. And one of the lies that he told that Fox News and other outlets repeated over and over and over is that we don't pay the tariff, that country pays the tariff. And people were like, yeah, that's right. Because of a reason that keeps changing, I want them to pay more. Okay. That lie worked. That lie worked. As of April 8th, right at the beginning of this month, um, let me look at this here. About 53% of Americans either thought that that was true, that this lie, that the other countries pay the tariffs, that either that was true or they were unsure and confused. Over half of the country. And if you watch Fox News, 72% of Fox News viewers thought that the other country paid the tariff. That was at the beginning of April. That poll was taken April 8th. That's where the nation was. Now, here's why I say we have a Christ-ertunity. And it's good to see you, Professor Liberty Esquire. I just saw that you were on tonight. Fast forward just a few short weeks later, new poll, 89% of American adults think that the tariffs will result in higher prices for us. They can be taught. Okay, so I want to look at those numbers again. We had about 53% that were like, no, 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 they're going to pay it, or I'm not really sure, but I don't think this impacts me, right? Over half of the country thought that. Now, 89%. That's almost 9 out of 10. You can't even get 9 out of 10 people to agree they like ice cream, right? So almost 9 out of 10 people, they understand now that the tariffs are going to make the prices higher for them. I'm going to tell you what to do with that information in just a second, but an interesting fact just before I wrap that number up is interesting fact is that while 89% of the country now believes and understands that we are going to be the ones that pay more, we are still largely split by party on whether or not that's a good thing. If you consider yourself a supporter of 47 and a registered Republican, many people think that it will be a short-term pain that is worth it because it will bring more manufacturing jobs to the United States. Whereas if you are a registered independent or Democrat, you are more likely to think that the cost of the tariffs is going to be greater than any benefit that we in our households and our businesses have. Mox says, went to Costco tonight. It was like doomsday shopping. Oh, Mox, I'm sorry. Professor Liberty Esquire says this will go down as the biggest self-inflicted wound in history. Yeah, I mean, cell phone, self-clown. I mean, this or the election of 2024, right? Kelly Frazier, my concern is what this will do to small businesses, 100%. M says, I'm so mad that 23% of our population is responsible for the situation we're in right now. So let me tell you what we can do. All right. Many of you might notice that if you watch any of my videos or if you're on any of the Political Fixer lives or we have conversations, I don't usually use his name. All right. And the reason is not because I think he's like all powerful like Voldemort, but because I don't like to glorify him and make him seem bigger than he is. Right. I think that we have propped him up to be this all powerful leader. I don't think he is. I think he's a gas bag. And then we have a bunch of weaklings that are following him because he's loud. That's what I think. Is he damaging? Yes, it is the greatest. I'm trying to think of a PG way to say it, but mind screw, I guess, to understand that yes, he's an idiot and just a joke, and yet also extremely harmful. But I don't want to glorify him in any way. So a lot of times I refer to him as the man in the oval or 47 or something like that. So I'm still being professional, but I'm not propping him up. I'm breaking that rule now. I'm breaking that rule now, and I'm going to encourage you to do the same. Every single time we say the word tariff, the word Trump needs to be in front of it. Trump tariff, Trump tariff, Trump tariff, Trump tariff, right? We are dealing with a group of people Americans at large that are busy, they are inundated by media, they have hard baked in ideals and prejudices, etc. This is a moment to hang something around his neck that we don't even have to get cute with it. He's proud of it. There is footage after footage after footage every day of them talking about how great tariffs are, right? Like he is so excited about tariffs, right? So let him have it, right? To, paraphrase Lil Nas X and Montero, call him by his name. Call him by his name, right? So Trump tariff, anytime. If you own a small business and you have the option of adding this to your shopping cart line item, name it a Trump tariff. If you own a restaurant and you got to charge more for eggs or plates or coffee or anything, do a Trump tariff upcharge. If you're doing content on social media, please refer to it as a Trump tariff, right? I user 87, I can't read the whole thing, but 8274 says yes, every business should be in the Trump tariff on their products, right? Now, I want to say Sunshine brings up a good point. Republican Congress is allowing it to happen. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. They own every bit of everything as much as he does. But you know what? Like he is the one that is their strongman. He is their strawman and their strongman. And if we topple him, the rest of it starts to get weak very, very quickly. Very quickly. Because they haven't just supported the guy that happens to be in their party. You want to see how how much they are kissing the ring. Literally verified this tweet today as being authentic because I thought it was fake and someone was being funny. Lindsey Graham literally tweeted out today that he should be considered for Pope, that 47 should be considered for Pope. Oh my good Lord, right? Like this guy was once asked what his favorite part of the Bible was, and he said Corinthians 2, right? Like, okay, right? So they are going to be locked to him. They are anchored to him. That only matters if we sink him. It only matters if we sink him. And all of these things he's trying to do, that he is doing, the inhumane kidnappings that they're calling deportations, the targeting of journalists and universities and law schools and all this stuff, that might be cute to his MAGA minions for a little while. But a number of those congressional leaders, they are in swing districts. And if you weaken him, you weaken them. And this is something that it doesn't matter who you are, this will impact a lot of us. It is already starting to, whether we understand it or not. Now, I'm not rooting for that to happen. I don't want people to hurt in order to prove my point that he's an idiot. Again, I would love it if this was just an incompetent administration and we waited out the next 4 years and I was doing videos about sports and miniaturing, which is probably what I would be doing, right? But instead, right, he is dangerous. He is dangerous. And people are not going to put up with the nonsense if they're losing money. And as a case in point for this, it was super fun when Elon Musk was going around and breaking stuff at Doge and crashing the social security system and firing veterans. All that was super fun to all the people that are the head Tesla shareholders until they started losing money, until their stock took a dive, until 8 out of 10 people in most of the countries in Europe won't touch their car with a 10-foot pole, right? Then they called him back. Then they said, okay, could you stop playing government now and actually come get us our pretty money back? Do I hate that it's like this? Yes, I do. I hate that it's like this. I hate that money is the thing that is making so many people care. But this is where we are. So for the people that weren't paying attention now, that are paying attention, we say, oh, you want to know what's going on with higher prices? Let me tell you about the Trump tariffs. Let me explain those to you. Let me tell you what's going on. Okay, let me explain how it works. Oh, why is he doing it? No one knows. No one knows. At first, he said it was fentanyl, but then he was taxing places that only have penguins. Then he was saying because of some sort of trade deficit, but none of that made sense. Then he was saying it was so that we would have more manufacturing jobs. But then we realized we can't just build factories in 3 days. And then he said is that the tariff money would replace the income tax. No one knows. We're all hurting. It is Trump. Trump tariffs, Trump tariffs, Trump tariffs. right? Tina says, I would challenge any one of them to live on $1,000 a month. They don't even listen, the dude's fascinated with the word groceries, right? Like we just really, I don't know. So that is my call to action on this. Again, like people are making fun of this lady Karen on Temu, because she didn't know what was going on. And then there's more people on Reddit that are like pointing out their Temu receipts, and they don't understand because it says import charges. They think it's Temu, so they're like, "Oh, I'm never shopping with Temu again." And there's other people that are saying like, "Oh, well, you shouldn't be buying from them anyway. So this is good that you're getting charged more." And I would just say that we have a choice right now on who we want to be. And as someone who grew up in a very poor environment, my mother made many of the special dresses that my sister and I wore when we were little. And that's not even possible right now. It's not even possible. I don't know if any of you, I tried it briefly, and my husband will laugh as I'm telling the story because I'm like the worst with a sewing machine ever. I'm very crafty with some things, but not a sewing machine. You go get the pattern, that's $20. You go get the fabric. First of all, where are you getting it? Because a lot of the Joann's and other craft stores have been driven bankrupt, right? You got to go get all the supplies. It's more expensive to make the dress now than it is to buy it. And you've got to have the time to do it, right? And so when you are someone that's on a fixed income, whatever that is, whether it's Social Security, and in this case, this woman, she has a granddaughter. She wanted her granddaughter to look nice for her son's wedding. It was the granddaughter's uncle's wedding, right? So it's her son's wedding. She wanted her granddaughter to look nice. The family thought they could make it happen with all the other expenses. So they found a dress for $19 that made this kid feel special and seen. They thought they could pull it off. And then something like this ripped that rug out from under them. And if you can't find empathy for that, then maybe pause for a second, because we can say that people voted for this, but it's more complicated than that. It really is. Some people know he's awful and they voted for that because they love that he's awful. But a lot of people were lied to and conned. And so we can be mean to them and tease them, or we could say, man, it sucks when you're lied to. It sucks when you're lied to. I hate that this happened to all of us, right? Let's talk about it. And we're here for you, right? That's another option that I would just encourage people to consider, right? Gina says, some people have nothing and want everyone else to have nothing. I think that's true. I think some people are angry. I also think that, when I look at our party right now, I think we look at it as the people, right? Because so many of you are advocates, and I know many of you work volunteer hours and you do community service and you work in advocacy and in politics and social justice. Some of you are teachers and nurses and attorneys, right? You're used to giving to people. And so when you see a problem, you look at it from a people perspective. Well, a lot of people look at politics and they look at who do they like that they think represents them. And I got to say, when you look at our lineup, when you look at our bench, a lot of those people do not represent anyone. They're not doing great, a lot of them, right? And so we can't really blame people for being like, well, I'm not voting for that idiot either, right? I recently saw Chuck Schumer on an interview, and when he was asked what he was doing about the stuff with the crisis with the universities and with Harvard, he said, and I'm not making this up, that he wrote a strongly worded letter. And the newscaster was like, what? And he's like, well, it contained 8 very, very strong questions. The man in the Oval Office cannot read. He is barely literate, but yeah, he's going to answer your letter. He's going to answer your letter. When you look at that guy, do you expect someone that works for a living to look at Schumer and say, man, that's the guy. That's the guy that should take us there. That's what I want our country to be. We can't get mad at them until we start presenting better alternatives, because when we do, like Obama, right, then they vote for him. Look at Pritzker. He's getting elected again and again. Democrats are getting elected in Kentucky, in Louisiana. Like, they're getting elected in these places. All right. We cannot keep feeding them garbage and then saying at least it's not garbage with glass in it. That's my thing. We got to find better people. I'm not saying all of them. Some of them are amazing. Some of them are hardworking. But I work with these people for a living. And I got to tell you, Many of them are idiots. Many, love that sometimes we have more on the blue side than the red side because we need to stop evil, apparently, but many of them are idiots. All right, let's end on a positive note. A positive note. All right. We talked about Canada taking a look at two options for their future. And in my opinion, standing up to the bully, standing up to the bully. And to be fair, I don't think that's Pierre Poilievre, the opponent on the conservative side. I understand there were some other serious questions about like his security and clearance and stuff. I'm not claiming to be an expert in Canadian politics, but I do know from what I read from many of you that in your view, this was about standing up to 47 and saying, no, you can't just come in and push us around and charge us what you want and cut off our supplies and threaten to take us over and take our resources. They stood up to the bully and it worked. And it worked. And we got to watch them really come together around a guy that, from what I understand, is good and decent and smart, right? That's amazing. Yay. So that was a positive story. We watched how everything is political. I mean, it used to be that you could talk about certain topics and just not mention politics. Everything is becoming political, right? Including football, where we had not one, but not two, but three different political stories about Shedeur Sanders, about the who went to the White House out of the Eagles team, and about the Patriots and their jet and the hijinks that that little airplane has been getting itself into, right? And then we talked about the economy and what's really going on. And what's really going on is we don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to take precautions and we're going to do what we can to try to stock up on essentials, possibly purchase things that we think we might need soon before they get far more expensive. And then if we can, as so many people start to wake up from the MAGA cult, as they start to notice it impacting them, then maybe have a little bit more patience and grace if we can find it in ourselves to say, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Come over here. Let's talk. Right? So let me ask you something. What is it that you all are working on now or you're excited about now that we can talk about in the future? Because next week's show, we're going to be talking a little bit more about what our team has been up to, things that so many of you have been helping with behind the scenes on how we plan to do something. We've teased a lot of different things. We've been talking about a few things, with each other, and really excited to be able to give you guys some really cool stuff and some new links and some new ways to get involved and participate with us if you would like. I see that JoJo is reminding us, come out to Monroe Park in Richmond, Virginia, Thursday at 5 p.m. to march to Capitol Square. Let's see. Scott says he's done giving them grace. Totally fair. Scott, totally fair. That's not everybody's job. I just want to make sure that maybe we don't then kick when they're down. But I respect what you're saying. It's easy for me to say because I come from those areas, but I don't think that everyone should just forgive everything. So I recognize your viewpoint and I completely understand it. And if you catch me on a bad day, I promise you I'm in that column as well. Aunt Molly says, I'm shopping like I was taught by my Depression era mother. That is beautiful. And then also, Molly, I'm really sad that we have to think of it that way, but I bet that you have some amazing things that you could share about like lessons that you learn. Let's see. Let's see. Put a protest together. Oh, Nev is saying that there's another protest on May 1st in Sioux City, Iowa. So Nev, thank you for sharing that. So if you're near Sioux City, Iowa on May 1st, you can go to that protest as well. Veronica says at the point where they can have a respectful conversation. Love that. Again, it depends on the day and the situation. Don't want anyone to be anyone's punching bag. Don't want anyone to accept less than equal treatment. I'm sitting here seeing some trolling going on right now. I'm fast with the block button on social and in life. Like, do not put yourself in a situation to get a migraine, right? Tina says, just showing some love and compassion is like making Afghans for people who need some warmth. Yes, sometimes we're able to do that. When you can, I invite you to just look at that other perspective of empathy when you can. But Yol Dog, let's see. Oh, Yoli Dog Mom says the Great Depression recipe. These comments are coming so quickly, I'm having to scroll. Okay. Oh, it's Karma Baby says there's over 800 nationwide events on May 1st. Can some of you share, like Jojo or Karma, could you share like a good website? Is it still 5050.one where people are organizing? Is it indivisible? Like if someone is on here and they're not in Sioux City and they're not in Richmond, Virginia, and they want to participate, where would they find that information? If you could share that with all of us, then I really would appreciate it. Let's see. May Day protester. Oh, Worcester, Massachusetts. Hopefully I said that right, Joe. Hopefully I correct me if I didn't. Let's see. Oh, Vivian says empathy is tough right now, but yes, again, and not judging at all, because I get it. Some of them are obnoxious. Gina is asking, can we please do more things on weekends? Great point. I think there was a significance to the May 1st date. I know that many of the things, Gina, had been on weekends before, but I'm sure there'll be more weekend things as well. But that's a really good point. So Mobilize is what Stephanie's recommending as an app to find out where a lot of these things are, or to go to Indivisible. And Twitchy Eye is saying that Canadians will be with us in spirit, right? Joe, oh, good. I'm glad I got it right. Okay, cool. Okay. Vivi, I forgot you're a fellow Texan. All right. So listen, I really appreciate the fact that we have a community here. I want to make sure that for all of you that join us with Political Fixer and Political Fixer live broadcasts, I hope that you feel like you get a little bit of something out of this. I would ask that every time that you join us, first of all, thank you for trusting us with your time and inviting us into your space. I hope that you learned a little something, that maybe hopefully I broke something down and gave you a different perspective on some of the news. One of the things I like to do is point out some stuff that maybe you may have missed because it comes at us fast and furious. And on the other side, slow some things down and really go into what they mean and how they might impact us, rather than just all of us just hitting us in the face constantly, right? I recorded a couple of videos this week for you guys. One of them does talk more about the Canadian elections if you're interested in learning more. And one of them is a personal thing that I want to share. I want to thank all of you, particularly many of you that messaged me. I have been dealing with a lot of health issues, but if you can tell, I'm feeling so much better. I'm under a treatment, have been now, with a great team of doctors in New Jersey for a few months now, doing so much better. Thankfully, everything is treatable. We just got our final results in for the last scary round of tests, and everything came up very, very positive. So very excited. Hope to be feeling even better in the days and weeks and months ahead. I just got cleared to exercise, so I'm getting kind of a little obnoxious about that, loading up all the apps, loading up my Cowboy Carter playlist, and doing exercise routines that I haven't been allowed to do for the last year. So I'm feeling much better. And I want to say that part of what keeps me going, even on the days, and you can ask my team, because some days they're like, are you feeling okay? Are you sure? They've been covering for me like you would not believe. So thank Sarah and Eddie and J Robot and so many others that have just been covering everything on my down days. And they ask, are you sure you can go live? Are you sure you've been feeling lousy for days? And you guys are a reason to get in this chair and to smile and be with you every single week. So even when I was feeling like garbage, I still would come on here and you guys would give me positivity and energy at a time that, honestly, sometimes those are in short supply. So thank you to all of you so much. And the appreciation is mutual. Really, I can't thank you enough. If you're new to the Political Fixer family, then please check us out at Political Fixer. And if you're Political Fixer family for a while now, we have been making some promises on what we're going to be bringing you as a way to do something. So mark your calendars. We'll be rolling out some of that next week, next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can catch us here on TikTok Live. You can catch us on YouTube Live. And of course, we'll have videos and posts after the broadcast. Love you guys so much. 94,000, almost 95,000 likes. That's amazing. I hadn't looked at that. My apologies. You guys have been crushing it. So what a great night. We just hit 95,000 likes. You guys have been sharing so many lovely gifts, which I sincerely appreciate. Divine AF Girl is saying, do a gifting goal. I promise you we will get more on top of that, Divine. And I owe so many of you messages and emails and replies. So that's on my to-do list now as well, now that I'm finally done with the worst of the doctor visits and tests. So hopefully I'll get on top of that as well. Thank you, Talk To, for the gifts as well. And I hope to also, one other quick thing before we sign off, love the little kiss. Another thing is we are looking at having in-person events. So keep that in mind. We're going to be doing kind of a political fixer tour. We're talking about calling them political fixer mixers, where we get together, we talk about politics, how to get involved, we do something fun city to city, maybe offer some trainings and do some other cool stuff. So start thinking about if you want to grab some friends and have us join you or join you by Zoom across the country. Marlene saying she's in, and Marlene, spoiler, there will be V-necks of everything that we offer next week. So I heard you, girl. I'm not gonna forget you. We'll make sure to get you your political fixer V-neck for sure. We just crossed 100,000 likes, and I Divine F Girl would love that. She's on Florida West Coast as well. Like, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Listen, everything might be on fire, but we're in here together. We're going to keep each other safe. We are. We really, really are. On behalf of myself, my family, and also my team, the Political Fixer team, so many people we've got, tonight we've got Eddie, Sarah, and Jay Robot. We've also got Candace and Heidi and Brittany and Rob and Erica, so many Political Fixer team members that I can't wait for you to meet. So many great days ahead. Please take care of yourselves and take care of each other now more than ever. And I want you to stay positive and look forward and just kind of circle your calendar for next Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, where we can come back together as family and let's do this again, shall we? All right. Have a great night. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Shauna Presley Virtue, the Political Fixer. I will see you all soon. Let's go do it. Let's go do it. Cause some good trouble. Cause some good trouble. Wait, what kind of cookies did we decide I'm getting? Did we ever decide that?